All right, welcome into Mostly Hokies, an ONSI Virginia Tech podcast. We're super excited to be coming to y'all live for the first time under Mostly Hokies. There's just so much. We typically record and then post it, but there's just so much going on today. We wanted to be live if any news broke so we could give our instant reactions on it. Hoping to do this for basketball games. I don't know if anybody in the Virginia Tech social media sphere goes live for basketball games. So we're hoping to do that if all of our schedules can work out for it eventually. But we haven't quite been able to make that work. But I think that could be very fun. Before we get into it, we're brought to you by Ferguson Family Mattress. Did you know? The fitted sheet was invented in 1958, and we've been trying to fold it ever since. The Ferguson family, a local Charleston, South Carolina Christian family, has been selling name brand mattresses since 2003, with stores in North Charleston and Somerville, and online at fergusonfamilymattress.net. No matter what kind of mattress you have, that fitted sheet will never be easy to fold. Come see us at Ferguson Family Mattress, a proud sponsor of Mostly Hokies. Jacob, lead us off. What do you got?
Oh well, I guess it's transfer portal season, and it's getting hot. The stove is up for a lot of those names coming across the board today. So I guess go ahead and dive into that, right into the transfer portal additions. And I guess maybe top thing would be just thoughts on the guys we've added today, but maybe the thoughts on some of the big additions that we've had so far to the portal. I'll just quickly start off with saying you're finally seeing that Penn State to Virginia Tech kind of work out pretty well for us. You're seeing two edge rushers commit today, both, of course, that are going to be younger guys, have a lot of time left in college, so hopefully they can develop into what we hope is superstars in the future. But again, it's nice to see some of those guys want to come on over with Franklin, some of the staff that have come over. Cortez Harris and Malachi Williams. I think those are the two the edge rushers that have come over today from Penn State. And then, of course, Michael Troutman, the offensive lineman that committed today as well, coming over from Penn State. So that's just three in one day that have started their way over here. And then, of course, if you remember Eric Mensah, the defensive lineman that was committed to us originally back in 2023, I think, that class, and then flipped his commitment late. That's another commit we had today coming over from Ohio State. So a lot of those are fun names to look at just today that have happened. And that's, I guess, why we're live, is so that if something else like that happens, we're able to catch that and bring a little attention to it. But your guys' thoughts on those additions?
Thomas, what you got?
All right, so I think, and this is tying a little bit back into the guys that have left the program. I think the good thing is that it's not like you're just reloading, you're also adding in, because a lot of the players that left the program, I think it was only two bona fide starters, that being Cam Seldon and Caleb Woodson. A lot of the other guys, some of them factored into the two deep, others were backups that didn't see much time. I think the good thing is that a lot of the guys that you're seeing that are entering through the portal right now, they're high upside guys. They have a lot of eligibility left. And then also the guys that left, they don't have a lot of eligibility left. A lot of them have like 2 or 3 years, or the redshirt freshmen that just didn't like the opportunity that they were getting, wanted to seek a fresh start elsewhere. But I think you get a lot of high upside incoming guys, and then the outgoing guys, there's not a lot of production to replace there in that front.
I mean, you can see like Franklin's put an emphasis on like getting guys with multiple years left. So I think this is an excellent way to build it, because I feel like also we haven't had the enrollees through recruiting through the high school ranks that we should have previous years.
I definitely agree with that. I think Franklin, during his National Signing Day press conference, said that things were going to be a little bit different in year one. He did emphasize that he wanted to build through high school rather than relying on the portal year after year. But I think that I don't want to say something to this level should be expected every year, but I do think that's hopeful that you can be able to land players like this through the portal, not just landing 3-star guys, landing a couple 4-star guys, maybe a 5-star guy down the line. I think at the very least it builds a more consistent floor for Virginia Tech. And again, like I said earlier, with a lot of the guys that you're losing a lot of guys that didn't take a whole lot of snaps. Like I'm going through the list right now. You lose Garrett Rangel, didn't see the field for any snaps at all. Charlie O'Connor was a walk-on. Pop Watson saw the field for 22 snaps this season. Cam Seldon, probably the main loss that you're talking about. Zeke Wimbush, mostly a guy that was like the third tight end on that chart, maybe the fourth. Jeremiah Coney, again, another guy who's kind of in like that third or fourth guy there. Caleb Brown got injured, didn't really see the field much. I think he played 3 games. Same thing for Arius Nash. And then a lot of these guys further down the list, save for Caleb Woodson, are either guys who didn't see the field at all or guys who didn't factor much into the rotation. So, again, I think back to what some of you guys said. The new guys have a lot of eligibility coming in, which I think is something to pay attention to. Like, I'm looking at, like, even when it was at the start, it was like Jennings has 4 years, Henderson has 4 years, Davis has 2 years, Bell has 4, Hilson has 4, Chadwick has 3, Exnor has 4, White has 2, Wiley has 2. And it's not like these guys are just like, you don't really know about them. It's like these were guys that were highly regarded, mostly in the Commonwealth. A lot of them are coming from Penn State. So it's like they're in Virginia or they're in Maryland or they're in Pennsylvania. Like they're close enough to where you know about them if you follow enough high school football. So Jennings, Henderson, Exenor, Wiley are the ones that I remember being from Penn State before. I've updated the tracker for on SI, which I'm updating today basically as soon as we get out of this podcast because it's been a chaotic couple of days with having a bunch of commitments, having a bunch of hoops too. We'll get into that later. But I mean, the Penn State to Virginia Tech's pipeline, at least the one that Franklin has tried to establish, didn't just happen through high school. It happened through the portal too. Like, yeah. You can't just count it on one hand.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you also said with like guys we lost out of the program, you see, I think truthfully, a lot of the bigger name guys, maybe like a Christian Ellis or somebody like that left mid-season anyways. So those were guys we were already counting on being out of the program. And other than that, come to the end of the year, like you said, Woodson being maybe the most impactful loss. And you have to think some of that probably was because of some of the stuff that happened off the field before the season started. There was already some connections between maybe him and the staff that just weren't so good because of some things that occurred off the field. So even that one, to me, seems like there could have been some other reason than just the fact that he's a good player and we let him walk out the door. Not that he just went to Alabama. I mean, that's big too. You're not going to you get that offer in the portal, it is hard to turn it down.
Right. Even Alabama in the current day, it's kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
It's still hard to say no to Alabama, even if Alabama isn't the same powerhouse that they were under Nick Saban. They're still a top 15 school. They're still like either going to be in the college football playoff or right around there pretty much every year. Like you don't just say no to that when you get that call. I will say, though, Woodson's production dipped a little bit this year from last year. I think he had something like 70-ish tackles this year. Played in 9 games. Missed that 3-game stretch, was injured when the Hokies made their road trip to Raleigh. They're not really sure what the injury status was on there, but I think he'll probably end up starting or at least figuring into the 2 deep over Alabama. Like, he's a good player. He will find a way to carve out a niche. He will find a way to carve out some sort of niche or outright start at Alabama, I think.
Yeah, and all to add to that with the Alabama thing, that's a place that develops linebackers at a very high level. They've put a ton of linebackers in the NFL. So it makes a lot of sense, too, in that right, that a guy maybe in his last chance to develop into an NFL player, he says, let me take the opportunity to go to a place that produces linebackers better than most. And, yeah, the coach that was doing it at a high level, he isn't there anymore, but they still have some guys that are going to get drafted. I mean, a Deontay Lawson, who didn't have his best year there, is still going to go to the NFL and get drafted relatively high because that's a place known for their linebackers.
There's a couple of guys in here, too. Y'all kind of alluded to it with Woodson. Like, you scroll down through here, and Jokenham is one that, you know, we thought very highly of when he first came in and played decently well. Keyshawn Burgos, very high upside guy. But if there was a list of who I would think were locker room problems, those 3 are probably the top of that list. Because when Caleb Woodson lost his captainship, it Brent Pry was very clear that like he's gonna earn it back. He's gonna have the opportunity to earn it back. That was said over and over again. I don't see where he did earn it back. Now, obviously, Brent Pry got fired after 3 weeks and everything changed. But yeah, Jokinham, I think he left the program pretty quickly, and Burgos has just been known to be like a hothead, causing problems in practice, which, you know, you like a little bit of that competitive spirit. But yeah, it seems like Franklin is changing the culture again from, you know, because we heard some similar issues back under Fuente. Seemed like Pry had kind of gotten into some of those issues, and Franklin is cleaning house. He said, what did he say in his press conference? He wants high production, low maintenance. And that's,
pretty much something along that line.
Yeah, it seems like that's where he's
You don't
going.
want character concerns to factor in, especially that quickly.
Yeah, and another thing so the Penn State folks say used car salesmen say he's a liar, he's this, he's that. He hasn't lied about anything yet that I've seen. He said he's going to up our talent, which he has. He's the point I'm getting to here is he said in his introductory press conference, he said to the current players, you do not need to be worried about my guys versus the previous guys, like my guys versus not my guys. He's seemed to hold kind of true to that. He's not running everybody out and bringing in his guys like the school he came from, who has 50 plus guys in the transfer portal now and has brought in 40 plus guys. He's just doing a complete roster turnover and just running everybody out of there. Yeah, he's kept a few top notch ones, but like who wouldn't keep those guys? But he's run pretty much everybody out. Like even true freshmen, redshirt freshmen that were gonna be pretty good that are coming out of Virginia Tech now. Like with his latest, some of these guys entered the transfer portal. Seems to me like they wanted to hang around at Penn State. If they just wanted the heck out of there, they would have entered day one. I'm frankly surprised about how many people are entering at this point anyways. And then my other point here that I've been on all over Twitter about, I'm looking at most of these guys' high school rankings before I am their transfer portal rankings because of their age, especially the class. No, not especially the class of 24 and 25 guys. These guys are being redshirted at a team that has levels of talent all over the place. So they're coming in. They've got good players playing ahead of them, and they didn't play their freshman year. They were rated in the 90s, in the top 300 of most recruiting rankings out of high school. They don't play their freshman year, and then all of a sudden they're an 87 rated transfer. It's like what what could they have done? Like, why is that so different? They've just developed for a year in a college system. Like they're more ready for college now than they were coming out of high school. So why are they being rated lower? So for the 24 and 25 guys, I'm looking at high school rankings. Once they get to upperclassmen, junior, seniors, they've had a couple of years where either they just didn't play because they weren't very good, or they have a couple of years of production. That's when I start to take a little bit more stock in the transfer portal rankings. That's when they kind of start to mean something more. But then also you get a Keyshawn Brown who had almost 1,000 yards at Duke last year and is an 87 3-star, right next to Javon Hilson, who was a 5-star 11 months ago and didn't have any production and is a 88 3-star on one of the services. It's like what are we looking for here? What do y'all want? Do you want production from low end guys? Do you want high end guys who didn't play? Like, I don't know. And then Quincy Porter, who also didn't play, is a 5-star transfer. Like, what? Why is he any higher than Keyshawn Brown if we're looking for production? I don't know. Transfer portal rankings don't make any sense for the young guys, especially the 24, 25 recruits. I'm looking at high school rankings. And if you look at high school rankings, a lot of these guys are bringing in. We may have a brand new top 5 in our 24 and 25 recruiting classes now with the guys that have brought in. Because I just did it. I started looking at it today with the Williams guy, and like he would have been the second highest rated recruit in our 25 class, and Cortez would have been the second or third highest ranked recruit in our 25 class. And like people are like, oh well, they're only 87 transfers. Like, well, if Cortez Williams would have committed to us 10 months ago, 11 months ago, before signing day last February, we would have all been so excited about it. Like, oh my God, this is one of the best players in this recruiting class. And now he's coming to us 10 months later. I'm still that excited about it. And I said on my post, I said, don't let anybody undervalue these because, like, especially these 25 guys, they should have been in high school 7 months ago. And they redshirted a year, and they're coming to Blacksburg. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the talent coming into Blacksburg.
You also got to consider for some of these kids, I don't know the specific numbers, but some of them might be early enrollees. Like I know that Troy Hoon, according to Tech Sideline, is going to be enrolling early for this spring semester, I believe. So you have a lot of these guys that are trying to like start early, get like their boots in the ground. Some of them might have reclassified up a year or two. I think that that's something to take note of. I don't know the specific numbers or if any of them are Virginia Tech, but I know that that's like a common thing. That tends to be the thing across really all college athletics. Like I noticed that I think it was Babatunde Oladotun reclassified up a year and then committed to Maryland. So that would probably be my biggest example of somebody reclassifying. But you can have examples like that. I don't know if any are connected to Virginia Tech, but that's another reason I think why you should view the high school rankings with a little bit more weight as compared to the transfer rankings, because the transfer rankings are all out of whack because you're considering a bunch of different criteria that maybe doesn't match up all at the same time. It's like what you said with taking a high upside guy that has no proven production, or maybe like a low ceiling guy who has a lot of proven production. So looking at high school, I think helps for a lot of these eligibility guys that have a lot of eligibility, which I think that there's a lot of them in that Virginia Tech incoming group right now.
You mentioned reclassifying. Daniel Jennings was one of those guys that reclassified. That's now coming to Virginia Tech from Penn State. He reclassified from the 2026 class to the 2025 class to go early to Penn State. So that's a guy that should have still been in high school. And now that he is a redshirt freshman, this is technically what should have been his freshman year anyways. So you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head there with guys that reclassify are also technically still high school recruits. And they are getting undervalued. I also agree with you. One guy described it as that when they do their rankings for the transfer portal, both on 3 and 24/7, that they go purely off of production first. And so it doesn't even factor into the what have they been ranked prior to. It was supposed to be based on production, then they look at their prior ranking. So if they were saying that you're going to have freshmen that redshirt, that they don't think the prior rating applies there because they have no production, so they lower them a little bit, not to put them in the upper echelon of guys in the portal. And I think, Mike, you posed the same question of like, what was the or where do we rank guys? Like, who's the top guys? They say elite are 300 in recruiting classes. It could even be up to 500 in portal classes because there's 5,000 kids or 4,000 kids in the portal. So some of these 400s look like they're not so great or they're not elite. They could be elite in a recruiting class because they probably were top 300 guys in their recruiting classes, or would be in Daniel Jennings' case. He was the number one player in West Virginia, even when he reclassified. So those guys definitely – I love that we're bringing in that kind of talent too because, like Franklin said, he wants to build through the recruiting classes and keep the team together. But he also said he was going to have to use the portal the first couple of years. And it almost feels like he's just using the portal as another recruiting class by grabbing guys that are going to be here for multiple seasons so that when he does have his first set of recruits coming along, maybe not necessarily this upcoming season, but the year after, maybe some of those guys are ready to play, or maybe even 2 years down the road. These guys he's bringing in now that have 3 and 4 years of eligibility can be the seniors, can be the juniors in the system that have already played with Franklin for 2 or 3 years at Virginia Tech. And then that sets up super well if you can hold on to guys, and it is hard to do that in today's era. You don't have an easy time keeping guys on the bench, but if they're happy to sit behind them and develop, man, this seems like the system that could really build you back to being legit in maybe 2 to 3 seasons. And heck, in the ACC, maybe next year, you could compete with some of the guys they're bringing in that might play as freshmen.
And the way I see him building this out is he's looking at the 27, 28. Those 2 seasons are going to be like, that's our statement season. That's what we're building towards. Not saying that next year's going to be like a crap year and just throw it out the window kind of thing, but I think we could see 6 to 9 wins next year. And if he brings that in, 6 would be on the low end, and I would say 9 would be on the high end. So we're looking around that 7 to 8 mark. And just from where we've been to having that in our back pocket going into 27 would be phenomenal. Just based off the past 10 years of how Virginia Tech football has gone.
with the schedule next year, I think unless this recruiting class rounds out with some ridiculous talent, which I don't think it will. Before we were all hoping who we would get in the transfer portal, I had my eyes set on 9 or 10 wins next year because I honestly thought that Franklin was going to come in with the goal to win right now. And with this transfer portal class, it doesn't seem like that is his number one goal, which honestly I'm surprised by because I saw some reason or some validity in what everybody said with like, oh, if he comes in and wins 9 games year one, he's going to bounce, which sure doesn't. This transfer portal class doesn't scream that that's his goal. If that was his goal, he would be out blowing $2.5 million on Sam Levitt and the Porter guy from Ohio State and the Cal linebacker. Like we haven't even seen where we're trying to get those guys. Maybe the Penn State, the Ohio State receiver Porter, but he had a pre-existing relationship with Franklin. So like, how much of that was just like, oh, there's a pre-existing relationship, there's probably been a phone call, versus like actual interest? Doesn't seem like Franklin is into paying $2 million for anybody this year. It's just I'm just not seeing that. You could have went out and got Amari Campbell. I bet if Franklin would have offered him the most money, he'd have come here. But Tennessee's is throwing bags like Tennessee should be. So I'm happy with it. Looks like long term, and yeah, I'm setting my eyes. I predicted 10-2 before this year, so don't take I'm horrible at college football betting, anyways. Golly. But I'm setting my sights on 6 wins this year. A lot of that is because of the schedule, too. Our 2026 schedule is fairly rough. Now, if we had like a UVA schedule, or Penn State schedule next year, good Lord, their schedule is ridiculous. There's nobody on it. If we had one of those schedules, I might be in the 8 or 9 win kind of category. But with our pretty damn tough schedule, I'm going to be more in like the 6 win range, unless something goes crazy here in the transfer portal in these last 10 or 15 guys we're going to add.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, like you said, we ended up, when they did giving us our 9 games in conference play, when they decided to do that, our schedule got even tougher because we do have to play on the road against maybe the 3 toughest opponents we have on the schedule, and that's not easy at all, especially the first year of a coach where he's more than likely going to be playing with a bunch of younger players, as it seems like what we're bringing in are a lot of younger players that are going to be starting at certain positions. But like you said, unless we had some crazy depth or some crazy star players at some positions, I don't think you can say that this team's going to be like just immediately awesome with that schedule. Like you said, though, if we were getting that Virginia schedule, man, I'd feel like we could win it year one because, I mean, again, it just was so easy. But there is, there's a time period where some people are still going to be upset, and I think it's completely unreasonable to be upset if you win 7 games next year when you were 3-9 and looked like you were at the bottom of all things. I mean, that looked like the worst it could get. It had been pretty bad already prior to that. So, yeah, I don't expect next year to be some super year by any means, but I do think that 27 season is clearly where he's building to try to go out and win. And I do think that seems positive for us because it seems like he's trying to build a program, not just come in and win and flake, like you said, that there were some people saying he was going to do that. But I'm excited still for the season because I think that there's going to be a lot of guys that are fun to watch on the field. And I think we've seen those additions through the portal as well, that the players that just kind of stand out to you and you say, man, have we had a guy like that, especially with a lot of eligibility, like a Davion Hilson? Have we had a guy that can come in and be a game wrecker for 3 to 4 seasons at Virginia Tech? I mean, have we had that? I don't know if we've had that. So that would be fun to watch. I mean, a Javion Hilson and any of those other – heck, if we get Crunkmeyer at quarterback, that would be a fun guy to watch because have we had a passer that's that high level in a long time? No. And so that's the fun part of it. And like you said, we haven't done the whole pay everybody as much money as they want at the top of the board. We've went and grabbed guys that he thinks has potential or guys he had relationships with. And I guess maybe the only top-end recruit we've grabbed was Jaquez White, the cornerback. He was a top 10 guy in the portal at the cornerback position, so maybe he was the biggest addition we've had so far just when it comes to starter-level guys. But overall, yeah, I still love the class. I still love the direction we're heading, but I don't think you can expect like a 10-win season next year.
Let's go around the room. I was going to say, let's go around the room and give everybody's favorite commits from the portal so far. But you give your thought real quick there, Thomas, and then we'll get to favorite guys.
I'll say overall, and this is kind of going to lead into what you just mentioned about my favorites. Franklin really emphasized in his press conference about building in the trenches. I've counted 19 commitments so far. 9 of them are split between the offensive and defensive lines. So for the O-line, you've got 3, which is Bell, Howland, and Troutman today. And then 6 from the D-line, which is Jennings, Hilson, Morgan, I believe was yesterday. And then Mensah, Harris, and Williams today. You've got a lot of additions being put in there. Maybe not necessarily all of them are guys that can start early. I think that you need to still continue to develop them. A lot of them don't have that redshirt year anymore to utilize that. But I think it goes back to a lot of what's been harped on today about them being high upside guys that might not deliver what you want immediately in terms of wins. I don't think it's going to be the 10-win season in year 1 that some people might want, but it provides a better stepping stone towards sustaining those 10 wins in the future, I think.
What's impressive about these offensive line commits too? I've gone all off about this on Twitter. The size of these guys. Xavier Chaplin, when he was here, he looked like a god among men. Like, he was just absolutely massive. He was a big deal. He still outweighs most of these guys, but as far as height, everybody but the centers that have been brought in, who centers need to be a little bit more compact because obviously they're handling a ball. Everybody's brought in but the centers are the size of Xavier Chaplin. Like Kyle Altuner this year, who is going to be likely our starting center next year, didn't look tiny out there this year. I didn't notice a height difference between many of the offensive linemen at all. I do not think that's going to be the case next year. I think Kyle Altuner is going to look significantly smaller than the rest of the offensive line next year. It's going to be a bunch of Xavier Chaplins running around out there. Like, it's a different type of offensive line that we're going to have next year. Everybody's 6'5" to 6'7". If you look back, Matt Moore did somebody challenged me on it on Twitter, and they were kind of right. 2025, this year, it was better, for sure. If you look down through that list, there's a lot of 6'5", 6'6", 6'4" guys. But if you go back to like 2020, 2021, just that recently, it's a lot of like 6'2", 6'3". So yeah, I'm excited about the size. On the offensive line, but I got a different one that's my favorite. I hope none of y'all take it from me. Cole, who you feeling in this transfer portal class so far?
Well, I mean, kind of just piggyback off what you guys have gone off of. Like, the D line and the offensive line have been 2 key spots of us just kind of going after size, and which, as you look at Miami's offense and defensive line, that's what's got them to the spot they're in right now. And if we're bringing those guys in, we're going to have to be able to compete with Miami with that being a rivalry and in our conference. So just the size is key into what Franklin's building. But I would say I don't know, I kind of like the Bryce Baker. I'm not saying that going out and getting a guy might not fit Franklin's scheme, but kind of fits the Virginia Tech mold of a quarterback in previous years when we look back at the history.
Oh, we're kind of losing you, Cole. Oh, we lost Cole. Oh,
Jacob, who do you?
He's back.
Yeah, he's back now.
All
But
right.
I heard the Bryce Baker part, and I do agree with you there. I think that is a fun addition because he is an athlete and he doesn't necessarily fit the mold of a James Franklin passer. I mean, you've looked at a couple of those guys like a Drew Aller and those stand in the pocket stones that are going to pass the ball a lot, and so Baker is different. I mean, obviously, I already mentioned his name once. Javion Hilson is absolutely at the top of the list for me because you just go watch his Missouri, I guess it's practice tape. But even stuff like that, you go watch his high school film as well. But he's literally a freak. He's 6'4", and I think they had him listed in the portal as a 250-pound guy. But I've seen different weights for him. But no matter the difference there. I mean, he was literally a Rivals 5-star. The kid is a freak. He literally was the best player on the football field in high school all the time, every time he touched the field. And again, you watch some of that tape, man. He is just dominating offensive linemen, and that is at a school in the SEC. And you need something like that. That's a jump start to what could be the future of guys you're adding, those edge rushers that are high-level guys that have the size, the weight, the freak athletics, stuff that you don't see a lot of the time from a 6'5", 250-pound guy. And then I think if you were looking more so on like the developmental or waiting on a guy to develop, I think, like you said, with the offensive linemen, I love the size of some of the guys you're bringing in, like a Justin Bell at 6'7", 300 plus pounds, and he's going to have 4 years to develop in our system. That's the kind of guy that I think they were basically mentioning the fact that he's not going to come in and start right away, but he's the guy that, like, man, if he develops at that size, that is clearly an offensive lineman that can make it to the NFL if he develops at the high rate that you're hoping he will, of course. And then last but not least, I have to throw a name out there because Bill Davis, I don't know if you've ever watched Bill Davis's tape. Golly, he is fun to watch. If you look up his height and weight, I think they have him listed some places 5'8", some 5'9", 225 pounds. He is literally a bowling ball. Runs nearly 5 yards a carry. I mean, if you remember Terrion Stewart, this guy has the same build as a Terrion Stewart. I'm not going to say that he's the same level of player. Now, of course, we unfortunately got robbed of a lot of Terrion's talent because of his injury issues. But Bill Davis, I mean, come on. That guy looks like a ton of fun to have in the backfield when you need a yard. Put him in there, let him run through some people. And again, that only adds to a running back room that already has so much talent in it. And Bill Davis can let a guy like Jeffrey Overton put on some weight and get a little bit bigger, and let a guy like Marcellus Hawkins get a break on those hard runs up the middle and stuff like that. So, love Bill Davis. I've always been a guy that loves my running backs, though. So I have to always pick a running back out to pull for, and we've had some really daggone good ones lately. But overall, that'd be probably some of the names I want to mention.
I will say he probably also has the best nickname that I've heard of anybody in this class. Apparently, his nickname is the Bulldozer.
Yeah, the Bulldozer.
Which that's an old VT content creator. I think Bulldozer or something like that was a big time VT content creator back in the day.
Huh.
There you
go. So y'all took the one that I was originally thinking of, Bryce Baker, but for a little bit different reason. I'm excited about Bryce Baker. There was a rumor floated. I don't know if it was on Twitter, 247 or whatever. If we're getting Grunkmeyer like we all think we are, then it's really impressive for Bryce Baker, who, being a redshirt freshman, could absolutely have gone somewhere where he would be a starter and get playing time. The rumor is that he recognizes that he isn't ready yet, which is huge in this era. Like that just shows a lot of maturity for an 18-year-old that I'd want to be playing. Shit, I don't want to ride the bench another year, maybe 2 years. But apparently the family, he really likes James Franklin, is okay with coming in and maybe sitting behind, hopefully, a Grunkmeyer for 2 years, and then it's Bryce's game for 2 years. Honestly, I'm very okay with that progression there. And then maybe even next year, there's a little bit of a quarterback competition, which just made me think of another thing. But yeah, no, really impressive of the maturity of Bryce Baker there. I'm excited about that. Seems like he's breaking the mold of just going somewhere he can try to play day one. Because if Grunk's coming, it's his job, and I imagine Grunk's gonna need that from somebody the way he played. Doug Bowman said that if he had enough passes to qualify, his completion percentage is like 7% better than any Virginia Tech quarterback's completion percentage like ever. So Grunk's gonna probably have a pretty good guarantee that he's gonna be the starter. And for Baker to come in, again, this is all likely, it's all conjectures. We don't know anything about Grunk yet. But if Baker's coming in knowing that Grunk's going to be the starter, then I'm really impressed with him. Another thing here that we might start seeing at Virginia Tech that we have all been confused about for the longest time. Alabama has 17 linebacker transfers, and here they have, high school commitments in the same class, and here they're getting another 5-star. Like, what the hell? Don't they realize they're not going to play? We might start seeing some of that at Virginia Tech now. Look at this tight end room. We just got rumors today that Benji's coming back, with likely adding Luke Reynolds, who's a top 50 transfer, who was a 5-star out of high school, with adding Henderson, who's a good tight end, a one coming in. So all of a sudden, we have 5 or 6 tight ends that could all be starters somewhere, each one of them. Maybe not this year, because obviously Peterson wouldn't be, but there's 3 or 4 that could be starters, and they're all here, which is crazy. Benji, Henderson, and Reynolds could all likely be starters at different Power 4 schools, and they're all going to be in the same tight end room. Obviously, the offensive coordinator helps with that because he's a tight ends coach, so you think he's probably going to have a lot of passes, a lot of catches to go around between that room. But I expect to see that all over the place. You know, we would get a good guy here and there, but we would never have layered depth like that, where there's just, you know, Alabama, when somebody goes down, you're like, oh, it's the next 5-star getting up behind him. I don't think we'll have that. Wink will have 5 stars all over the place. But we may have 4 and 5 stars all over the place in a couple of years. Gosh, I'm just so excited for the 2027 recruiting class to see how that shakes out. And then the one other than Baker, I'll give you another one. I'm excited about Eric Mensah. I'm a sucker for the Virginia guys coming back home. For like your Kelvin Gilliam, your Kamari Copeland, Cam Seldon, Jordan Bass is returning next year. I just love the Virginia guys, the highly rated, highly sought after Virginia guys that go elsewhere and then are like, hey, I'm coming back to Virginia Tech. I'm just a sucker for that. Mensah was committed to Virginia Tech at one point, and then he's one we all wanted. Like Eric Mensah was one, and I think it would have been the 24 class. He would have been a lot of people's favorite commit in that class, even though he was, I don't know, the 7th or 8th highest rated commit. Like everybody was very high on that guy. Now he's went to Ohio State and developed for a couple of years, and he's coming back probably ready to play. I'm very excited about Eric Mensah. He's one that I was disappointed we lost in that 24 class, and I'm very glad we have him back. All right, anybody have any other transfer portal thoughts? Doesn't seem like any have broken, but I'll keep my eye on it as the evening. We might get something here at 6 o'clock. We know Franklin loves those on the hour commits.
Yep.
There was one that dropped at 12:30 in the morning, and that was
There's
fun
been
to wake up
2.
for.
And it's annoying because I'm up late as shit all the time with my 4-month-old baby, but I missed both of those. I don't know how. Must have went to sleep right before them. All right, so we'll keep an eye. We'll keep an eye on anything breaks. I'll keep an eye on. I'll jump in if anything comes on. But we got some basketball to talk about. I think it was before the new year when we did our last podcast. So let's start with the UVA game. That was a wonderful one. 3 OT, took home a win. Let's not talk about the next 2. Let's just be in the UVA game right now. Let's bring ourselves back to those. Great win. Ben Hammond dropped 30. Somebody take it away. Talk about it.
I will say Christian Gurdek as well. 19 rebounds, 17 points. Like down the stretch there, you know, the Hammond, the Gurdek connection. And that's something that was prevalent in high school too, because those two played, I think, their first 2 years of high school together at Paul VI, which is down in Fairfax. Like those two had a connection beforehand. Gurdek gets the feed, I believe, to tie the game.
Yeah.
Can't remember if it was the first overtime or the second overtime. A lot of those plays are kind of blurring together at this point, but incredible resilience for Virginia Tech in those 3 overtimes to not just keel over and give up, especially after the second overtime, I think, because that last play where Chance Mallory is able to rise up for the putback after Malik Thomas, I think he airballed it.
Yeah.
Like that's a naturally demoralizing play, but you don't let it seep in. And they went out third overtime guns ablaze, and they took care of business that day.
Yeah. And that's absolutely a game they would have lost last year. Like, absolutely.
Like, the big standout to me is Hansberry with 2 fouls and Gurdek with 1 foul. Throughout that game, them having Hansberry having 50 minutes and Gurdek having 45 minutes. I feel like we have, during that stretch without Obi, or we haven't been able to stay out of foul trouble with the bigs. And I guess with Toby back now, that we can be a little bit more aggressive throughout the game, but just having Hansberry and Gerdak down there was just rough throughout that stretch of missing Toby. And then Sincere Jones came in with a pivotal 13 minutes. I thought he was a very good contributor when, I guess, what was that, right before half when he had to play 6 to 8 minutes? Because, no, I'm thinking of a different game. Never mind.
Yeah.
Is he our best defender?
Sincere's awesome. He is awesome on ball.
He's had some huge plays on defense.
He had that block. The block is the play that I remember.
Yeah. I mean, but he does it all. It's like, and you can tell he's very, very limited as an offensive player. That's okay. He's a freshman.
Raw.
He's figuring it out. He's not developed his game yet. He was confident in the game where he shot a couple threes, and when you're in the corner, you're wide open, shoot the three. You got to have some confidence so that they'll at least respect you out there. Now, did he make one? No, but that's okay. He's learning. He's developing as a player. That's why he's still an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid, whatever. But, yeah, his defense, man, on ball, he is absolutely playable. There's no concerns about it. And that was a guy I didn't expect to be an immediate contributor, but because of the injuries and having 3 separate guys that are so important to this team, or at least 2 that are key contributors and one that was going to be a big depth rotational piece, go down, you have to play him. And he did an awesome job. And, yeah, like you said, some plays that he come in and made the play. Like, it was in big moments. It wasn't even just like he was coming in and doing it in the middle of the game. He was doing it with, possessions to go. And they were able to sub him in, let him play defense, and him be able to lock down a guy and get a steal or get a block or just stay on him, play good on-ball defense. To add to what you said about the Virginia Tech-Virginia game, I actually got lucky to go to that one. And so we were there, and halfway through the game, you're thinking, man, this is going to be a slugfest. This is just pure defense, not a lot of good
out slow basketball,
exactly.
But it's kind of in the way of where it's like it's not boring. The game was 24-23 at halftime, and it's not one of those boring games where you're just like, oh man, both teams are just missing open shots. No, the defense played in those first 20 minutes was tremendous by both teams. And it's 2, I don't want to say heavyweights because you don't really know if Virginia Tech is a bona fide top 25 team. I think that they're right about at that level, but it's 2 very capable teams duking it out. And I think the rivalry just added another factor onto that. The crowd was electric that entire night.
Yes.
I was up in Media Row, and there were points where I turned to talk to some of my colleagues, and I can't hear them. That's how loud it was at points that night.
Yeah, and to add on to that, like you were saying, it was that slow slugfest. We got into the late moments of the game and even into the fourth quarter and overtimes. And it actually, usually that's when teams get tired and they stop scoring as much. There was a ton of scoring in those late drive. They had a lot of good sets on both sides, scoring the baskets. They started shooting way better from 3, which was something they couldn't do all night. So then we had to worry about that contested with you're late in the game. They're starting to hit shots. I think the big moment that always stuck out to me is when DeRitter, he hadn't done much most of the game. We leave him wide open for 3 when we were up by maybe 5-6 points. And just kind of because we were just letting him do it because he was 3 for 11 on the day. But he hadn't made one up until that point. He hits that 3, and then he goes on a crazy run. And DeRitter was just getting the ball every possession. And we had to try to adjust to this guy figuring it out because the whole entire game, their leading scorer couldn't do anything. He figures it out, and we were able to adjust. That's also impressive because you're able to do that on the fly whenever you've got limited defensive players. I mean, I think that's exactly who Toby Lawal would have been guarding in that game, and then he's not out there to help defend him.
Tyler Johnson as well. I think that's another big loss.
Yeah.
Youngin referred to him as the glue guy on a couple of occasions, and you really see how it's not necessarily the loss of a bunch of scoring production because I think he averages between 5 or 8 points a game, but it's the versatility that you lose when you have Johnson out. You can't slide somebody over to the 4 or the 5. With Lawal out, Hansberry has to play more of the 5, and you can rectify that a little bit by putting Gerdak in, but Gerdak is a true freshman. He's still a little bit raw. You see after the Virginia game, we'll get into Wake in a little bit, but after the Virginia game, he had a so-so game against Wake Forest. So taking that into account that Gerdek is still raw, but that performance against Virginia was electric.
Yeah. And also just to give props to Ben Hammond for absolutely carrying us in making all the free throws that the rest of the team could not make. Because those moments when you go down the line and you got to make free throws to end a basketball game, that's what you're going to see if you make the NCAA tournament. Is you're going to have games where if you have a lead and you have to make free throws, we have had a very bad issue with not being able to make our free throws so far. Ben Hammond is the one guy that you've been able to count on most of the time when he hits the line. He goes 16 for 18 in that game. That's unbelievable. To go that many times to the stripe and make almost every one of them is extremely impressive. And on top of that, not were they just a bunch of makes. It was in the most crucial moments that he was making all those free throws. When it mattered most, you could trust Ben Hammond at the line. That's what's so important with him as well. I think just when it comes down to it, now, did he struggle against Cal in the end of that game? Yeah, that's probably the worst he's played in a little bit. But when it comes down to it at the end of the game, I don't want anybody else having the ball but Ben Hammond because he has just been good in those moments. When it matters the most, Ben Hammond has been our best ball handler, and he's been the guy that can finish games by making his free throws. So absolutely he needs his props, and I think it's helped him so much that he was able to play a lot last year in this system because of just having to get thrown into the fray. And then now this year, he's absolutely developed into one of our better players, and he's absolutely the spark plug off the bench. I love Ben Hammond, and I think he deserves all the props for Virginia game and some other games from them. But
he did in the second half against Wake Forest too, which is what stood out to me because Jalen Bedford was also like the main star from that Wake Forest game, and you get the sense that Hammond was able to open up Virginia Tech down the stretch, which is a big reason of why they took that lead. And, Hammond's just cutting down the lane. That opens you up, to have Hammond be that attack man, but also to be able to spray it out, say to Bedford in the left corner, shoot on the wing. Having Hammond be able to do that and be such an upgrade from year one to where, he can put up 15 points, but not only can he put in 15 points, him doing that opens you up to get the ball to Bedford, to get the ball to shoot, to get the ball to somebody like Toby now that he's back healthy. It gives you more options knowing that you have a consistent option in Ben Hammond on the floor now, which I think is a lot better than you had last year, particularly from Hammond. Like, he's upgraded his game tremendously.
So that UVA game is probably the biggest example of this, but I'm under the firm belief that losing Toby Lawal cost us 2 wins. One in wherever the Bahamas. I think with Toby, we either beat St. Mary's and lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's on a warpath this year. Like we wouldn't have beat them if we'd have played them, or we'd have still lost to St. Mary's, and we're not losing to VCU if we're whole. We lost it. I fully believe we lost to VCU because one of our second best player went out. He is huge to the rotation, and he goes out, and you have no time to make any adjustments because you're playing your third game in 3 days. I don't think we lose to VCU with the whole team, and then the Wake Forest game. I don't think we lose with Toby, but I also firmly believe that Toby being out is going to gain us a couple of wins down the stretch because of how much that allowed Christian Gerdek to develop. Not only because I think Christian Gerdek is going to score 25 points in an ACC game in February. I don't think that. I do think now that everybody is comfortable with Christian Gerdek getting major minutes down the stretch, under 10 minutes in a close game. Christian Gerdek's going to go in, and just that rest that he can get Toby Lawal and Amani Hansberry late in the game is just absolutely massive. Those guys don't have to play 38 minutes a game now with Gerdek coming along. It's massive.
He's making his free throws, too. Just want to give him pure props for that. You do not see big men come in as freshmen and be good free throw shooters. Every time it comes down to the clutch moments, he is cash. He made them in the Virginia game. He made them in the Cal game late when we needed him to make free throws. That's another guy that, he's only shooting 73% on the season. That's still really solid for a freshman center. And when he gets to the free throw line, I don't go up there thinking, man, he's going to miss one of them. And it's a funky form, but it goes in, and that's all that matters. So props to him for that too, because I have to get on to some guys about our free throw percentage because we have multiple guards that aren't shooting above 70%. That's bad. You can't do that. So props to the guys that are focusing on their free throws when they're not on the court and they're making them. That's really, really impressive.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's the point. Right. So that was positive. We're happy about the UVA win. We're happy about the Elon win. I'm honestly happy about non-conference. We were, 12-2, 11-2, whatever it was.
11-2.
That's
And
solid.
the George Mason games is looking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. George Mason is we're their only loss.
And
So,
Elon's a good team too. Like we obviously we shouldn't have went to overtime with them, but that's gonna stay a Q3 win. It's one when you see it on the schedule you think, oh, that's easy quadrant 4, but that they're a good ball team, and that was a good win to get coming into the new year there. But yeah, so it's time to go negative. And yeah, I mean honestly, in my mind, the biggest we lost back-to-back games against good teams. Let's start there. Wake and Stanford are both decent teams. They are not, the Georgia Tech that's probably nearing the 200 in the net now. They're both 60 to 70, right around where Virginia Tech is right now. We didn't, frankly, I didn't expect to go to Wake and win. They're right around where we are in the net, and it's really hard to win on the road in conference.
We had one win too.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely. Would have been an absolutely massive win. But I'll just start with what Jacob just said. Those free throws, man. And you've seen it with Mike Young before. A team comes out and is bad on free throws for a couple of games, and then they're not for the rest of the year. Mike Young fixes that. We've had teams that have started the year bad on turnovers or have gone through bad turnover stretches, and then Mike Young fixes that. It's probably my biggest concern going forward is that the free throws are still a problem. The two guys that come to mind that are the biggest problem are Neo and Bedford. You cannot have a point guard and a shooting guard shooting 68 and 69% from the free throw line. That just cannot happen. That's got to be 75 plus. And for Neo, who thinks he's going to be a lottery pick next year, who we all think he's going to be a lottery pick next year, whether or not he should be, I don't know. We think he will be.
I think top 20 seems to be reasonable.
What we talked about previously is all he's got to do is have one Providence game in February, and he's right back up to the number 10 pick. Like, just with those guys with those crazy talent, they just have to show it one time in February, and they're right back up the board. We'll talk about that in a second. But he whatever it is, wherever he's gonna get, he's been playing pro ball since he was like 12 or whatever it is. He can't have a 69% free throw percentage. That's absolutely ridiculous. Same thing with Bedford, who's one of our better catch and shoot guys, cannot have a 69% free throw percentage. That's
Bedford's
so bad. You can't do that as a guard. If that's our center, like it's like, oh yeah, he's all right. Put him on the floor late game. A guard can't do that. You can't. You can't. How can he make them? How can he make them from 25 feet every now and then and not make free throws more than 6 out of 10 times? Like that's just ridiculous. But I'm sure we'll talk about that. Let's go Wake Forest game. Obviously started horrible, closed late, and ended painfully. Somebody talk about it.
So I
thought that game was over in the first.
I was there at that game, and the first thing that stood out to me was just the aggression of Wake, especially in the passing lanes, where I talked to the Wake head coach after the game, and it was just actually, I might have talked to one of the players about this, but the focus was on really hounding Neo and refusing to allow him to turn a corner, and he commits 4 turnovers in the first 4 minutes. Tech commits a season high, I believe, 19 turnovers that game.
We had 14.
So it's getting them out of rhythm, I think, was the biggest thing. And, they managed to get back into their rhythm late. They took the lead late, but then Hansberry fouls out. Gerdak was in foul trouble too. Both of them had 3 fouls, I think, by the end of the first half. And you're kind of playing that game of like cat and mouse where you're trying not to get Hansberry fouled out, but you need him to play aggressive at the same time, and eventually just fouls out by proxy of like, trying to defend somebody going into the lane. Like they know he's at 4 fouls, so they're going to try and drive, get him fouled out. Good for them that it worked. Not good for Tech because they're down one of their best players. In addition to having Lawal out at the time, in addition to having Dorna at the time, Neo at the time was dealing with some of the lagging ankle stuff that he came down with at the end of the UVA game. Seems like he bounced back from that pretty quickly. But you were very short-handed in that game, and I think it's a game that you could have seized. I think that's a game that you should have seized, and that maybe might not look the best on the resume, but and we'll talk about this in a little bit. I think that the Stanford game haunts Tech a lot more than the Stanford game haunts Tech a lot more than that Wake game, because the Wake game was a quad one game against a similar team, but it's not super bad of a loss versus Stanford was at home and it wasn't as shorthanded. You had Avdalis at essentially 100% health for that game. And that one, you have a 12-point lead with like 2.5 minutes to play. It's essentially over, but then you let Stanford erupt on that mini like 5-point run, and then it's an 8-point run. And then, now it's like a 12-point run. It was 14-1 in the final 2 minutes and 18 seconds. And for the second time that week, a game-winning three gets drained by a guard in Tech's face, and I'm pretty sure it was off a switch on both plays. On the second one, it definitely was, because I think Bedford was supposed to get that, and Avdalis gets caught trying to guard a Corey. On that note, a Corey in the second half made Tech's life a nightmare. 26 points in the second half, 31 total. Just flipped a light switch in that second half, and he made Tech's life a lot more difficult. But I think you can still avoid that if you just make one more play.
What hurts about Stanford isn't the loss. That was Toby's first game back. There's gonna be some growing pains. Like before the game ever started, it's like, yeah, we could absolutely lose this game. They have one of the best freshmen in the country, and Lord knows everybody gets hot. Everybody gets hot when they play Virginia Tech. So going into the game, I said, this is going to be tough. What hurts about that game is controlling it the whole time.
Whole game.
It was going to be our first
36 minutes.
It was going to be our first stress-free win of the freaking season, against a team with a pulse. To lose that after being up 13 with 2.5 minutes left, where if you just run the clock down and turn it over, if you turn it over every possession with 4 seconds left, you probably win that game. But just shooting it with 15 seconds left on the clock is what lost you that game. They're just boneheaded decisions, and frankly, what even more concerns me about it, things happen, you lose games, whatever. Didn't get a whole lot better in the Cal game. I expected Cal, who just got hammered by UVA. I expected, all right, they should have some stuff right now. Got a couple of days of practice. Got embarrassed by Stanford, and the Wake Forest loss got to hurt. So I fully expected them to come out and beat Cal by 15 and control it the whole game, and then didn't. They trailed for most of the game and came back late. So that is what is disappointing about the Stanford loss to me, is this didn't immediately light a fire like you see so often in Mike Young coach teams.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we were more deserving to win the Stanford game and more deserving to lose the Cal game. It's just how the cookie crumbles sometime. But, I mean, what's nice about the ACC this year is we can get those quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins back. With SMU coming up, if we win that, we're right back into where we want to be, where we should be. So that is what's nice about the ACC this year. But at the same time, you have to go out and win those games, and you can't be having trouble with 3 minutes left at the end of every game like we have in the last couple. So
it's 50-50 games, and if you end up on the wrong side of enough of them, that can be the difference between going to March Madness or watching the tournament from home. And I think right now Tech sits on that precipice, and I guess best case scenario, you can make it through the first 6 games of the ACC slate with a 4-2 record. That's what I would think best case scenario is. Probably more likely that ends up being 3-3, depending on whether you can take care of business against Syracuse. That Syracuse game, I think, will be really important. Maybe not so much that Louisville game, since I think Louisville is pretty heavily favored in that one, but I think you want to enter that lion's share of difficult ACC games. You got Louisville coming up, you got Duke, but you want to enter that slate with a 3-3, maybe a 4-2 record if you can. Just boosting the resume is what I would see at this point with these games coming up.
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking off what you said, but with SMU, Notre Dame, Syracuse, those next 3 games, you have to go 2-1. You have to be at least 2-1, because then that starts that stretch in February where you have the Louisville, the Dukes, the UNCs, the NC States. So, with all this being said, you have room to put a resume together and set yourself up well for the tournament. You just have to go out there and win the ball games.
Syracuse is an absolute must win. Yes. Because that's the only quad 1 win that you might be ranked higher than them. SMU quad 1, they're 24. We're not getting up to 20. I don't know if we get to 24 all year. Then Louisville 17. Duke is 4. NC State's 31. Clemson's 28. Both of those games are on the road. Miami 33. That's on the road. North Carolina 22. That's on the road. UVA 16, that's on the road. So, like, every quadrant 1 opportunity you have is pretty much on the road, which, I mean, obviously, at home it's 1 to 30. So, like, you're going to have more quadrant 1 opportunities on the road. But it's not the 60 to 70 teams. It's every one of those games has Elite 8 potential. If they're in that top 30, 35 of the net, they absolutely can make a run, and they're actually really good basketball teams. Where Syracuse, you get an opportunity against a bubble team. That's just a must win. Because we got to get to, what we say, 4 or 5 quad 1 wins. We're at 1. You got to beat Syracuse.
If you can get 3 quad 1 victories, this is just cutting it close. This is maybe at minimum, because as long as Stanford doesn't drop to that quad 3, which I think they can hang around there. I'm concerned that they might drop out because they're still sitting at like 73, 74. They're always right in that range. So that still concerns me. But if you could not have the quad 3 and the quad 4s on your schedule, 3 quad 1 wins with a bunch of quad 1 losses could get you in for sure. If you finish up, if you do your business in the quad 2 and you handle business in your quad 3s and 4s, which we don't have many of those left anyways, but you could get in with 3, because again, the ACC is so much stronger this year. The conference as a whole, I think come March we should get respected again. 2 years ago, the conference was still really good, and there wasn't any respect in the conference. I mean, we had 3 teams go to the Elite 8 or something out of the ACC, and only like 6 made the tournament. So they were disrespecting the conference 2 years ago. Last year, conference was down, which I'm hoping that doesn't play into effect this year, where they kind of look at last year and say, man, the conference wasn't very good. Are we really believing that they're still – but a lot of these teams have handled business in non-conference play and done well. And so, yeah, I agree with you. You have to win Syracuse. And then, man, you got to catch one of those other ones that are going to be tough, because you wish you were having one of those really good teams come to your building. Because, again, you have Duke coming in, but do you feel good that you can beat a Duke in your stadium? We've done it before a couple times, but that one's obviously going to be really tough to pick up. I have to harp on Stanford, because I told you that I was going to do that when we next podcasted. The concerns for me, more so than anything, is late in that game, like you said, you already brought it up. It is dribble the ball out and turn the ball over on 30-second shot clock violations. You win that basketball game. That's the stuff that I went to the Cal game as well. And when you're at the Cal game, even late, and I have not loved Neo's ball handling late in games. He's pushed it too fast and just caused issues that didn't need to happen. He come down the court himself and did this and said, let's slow it down. Because I think Mike Young has probably gotten his ear and said, man, you've got to stop doing that at the end of the game. It's not necessary. When we've got a little bit of a lead, a 12-point lead, you definitely don't need to be pressing. But even with a 3-point lead like the Cal game, you don't have to run lightning fast offense. You do want to go late in the clock. Heck, our sets have been pretty good late in the clock this year. So the Stanford game, it was just so sickening to watch us go down with 14 seconds left. We turned the ball over on an entry pass that was just unnecessary. Then we go down the next possession and shoot a step-back 3 off of a screen with 15 seconds left. That 30 seconds, the game's over. You don't even have time for them to shoot the final shot to win it. So it's just stuff like that that's so easily fixed by just let's run the clock out, let's play slow. That's the stuff that makes me upset, because it's like we've seen it time and time again up to this point of the season, and I'm hoping that what I saw at the end of the Cal game with him saying, hey, let's slow it down, was him finally understanding we don't have to run lightning fast offense when we have a lead. The clock is your best friend when you have a lead. So I'm okay with him ball handling if that's how he wants to run things. But at the end of the game, up until the Cal game, Ben Hammond has absolutely been the right decision for the guy bringing the ball up and down the court and running the offense on the other end. And that's the stuff that worries me with like the Neo prospect, is he going to be a lottery pick? Those kinds of things that teams want him to be a point guard because 6'9" point guards, the NBA love that. That is their favorite thing in the world. So when he struggles to be a point guard at the end of a game, that's concerning. He can't make free throws. He can't handle the ball late in the game. Those things worry me a little bit. Again, Cal game, he did improve on that. Still didn't make his free throws, but the other stuff was solved. There wasn't as many bad turnovers or bad decisions late in the game. And even when Ben Hammond wasn't playing well, you could turn to Neo, which before you couldn't. You could not turn to him if Ben Hammond wasn't playing well. So all props to him for figuring it out. I'm so happy that that's what happened in the Cal game. But I just had to harp on that because I think it's something that maybe it is the adjustment to our game and stuff, that he just had a slow coming in and trying to figure things out because our basketball in college is just way faster. And so maybe he was trying to run college basketball pace when he just needed to run Euro pace at the end of the Stanford game. He didn't need to run high up tempo. Also, one other concern I just have to point out is shooting-wise from across the team, we have nobody over 40% other than Jaden Schutt and then Tyler Johnson, who's currently not on the court. So when you don't have the shooters to go around the floor for you right now, it makes it a little bit harder on Imani Hansberry to go down and play the post, which he is so good in the post. I mean, in some of those games, man, he just takes over and knows how to get it off the glass, knows how to shoot a floater and those things. So it makes it harder for him to do that. So our offense could get even more difficult to run if somebody can't figure out the shooting stroke, because Neo is down to 34%, Bedford's down to 35%. Need those guys to be closer to that 38, 39, 40% to accompany Jaden Schutt, because VCU, the reason we did lose that game, they double bracketed him. They just double bracketed Jaden Schutt and said, he's not shooting the ball anymore. Find someone else to do it, and no one else could. And like you said, if we'd have had a Toby or somebody like that, we probably would have been okay because we could have played through the paint and then maybe got Schutt open. But when you're limited and nobody else can hit a three, that's an issue. So those are some of the things I just need to point out as issues. On the positive side of things, you have absolutely found some real players in Ben Hammond and Christian Gerdak that are going to be difference makers in ACC play. And they've had games. Gerdak did not play very good against Stanford. He only had 2 points in that game. So you'd have loved if he could have gave you a little bit more there. But those guys getting the playing time and getting to be a little bit more important is going to help us down the stretch for sure. It just sucks to drop that Stanford game because it's one you just can't have if they end up being a quad 3 loss.
What sucks about that too? I mean, and just kind of like he did play much better against Cal, so hopefully he's figuring it out.
Yeah,
you cannot. It's just bad situational basketball.
Yep.
And on that game-winning 3 for Stanford with 5 seconds left, that cannot be a wide open 3 to anybody. You are picking up. Once they cross half court, you're not fouling, but you can't be 5 feet from somebody. Situational basketball says up to no threes. If they drive and hit an uncontested layup, fine. We'll go to overtime and we'll play it out there. If we foul them inside, just damn sure don't let you foul them. Do not let it be an and one. Go make them earn it at the free throw line, which might have been the best thing there. Just there's your foul up 3 with 5 seconds left. Like why not? We probably win that game if you foul with. I know 6 or 7 seconds left is longer than his traditional foul up 3, but I like that better than hitting a wide open 3. It was just bad situational basketball. My other Neo point is, why doesn't he drive more?
I know.
Whenever he drives the paint, it's like, oh my God, there it is. Like that's why he's so good. He did it against Cal, and his finishes at the rim are just so impressive. And at Stanford, he completely loses it. Like he should be taking 30 or 40 of those a game. He'd be scoring 40 points a game, and that's what we need. Like I don't get why he's not driving. Why his go-to is a step back mid-range or step back 3. Like he needs to be finishing strong at the rim, and he has. We've seen it. We see it every game, but he just doesn't do it. Like he has an otherworldly finishing ability at the rim. Now maybe it's because he's trying to show that he can be a point guard and not a three. But we need him to win basketball games. Like, and he's so good finishing towards the rim. Like,
and that opens passing lanes. That creates the drive and kick that he's not initiating when he's shooting step back threes. He's doing nothing for the offense when he does that. And I don't know what his percentage is on the year. I don't know how you'd find that, but I can't imagine it's very high. The step back threes are not going in for Neo Abdallah. His 3-point shot has went from above 40% to below 35% since he started shooting a ton of step backs. I mean, that's clear as day, not your shot. He went 0 for 3 against Cal, and then like you said, it was like maybe something clicked with him, was like, hey, I'm not shooting very good today. Let me attack the basket. And then he goes and scores a couple big points there at the end of the game. But up until the last 10 minutes of the game, he had 5 points. And then he decides he's going to attack the rim and scores 6 in the last maybe 8 minutes or something, and creates more opportunities, has 6 total assists, only 2 turnovers. That's the stuff you want out of him. That's the stuff that makes him a lottery prospect or a point guard prospect to the NBA. I don't know what somebody, an agent or something, has to be telling him, hey, man, we want you shooting step back threes, because it just doesn't make sense. It's not his shot. He doesn't make them. So hopefully that game was enough to just show him, hey, I got to go to the basket more. I can get there. He had some really nice contested finishes where he gets up under the guy and can lay it up off the rim. He knows the angles to play it off the backboard. But, yeah, I fully agree with you. He's got to stop shooting step back threes.
5 of 7 from the floor, from 2 point. Like,
yeah.
What are we doing? he was 5 of 10 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3. So 5 of 7 from inside the 3-point line. Stop there. That's what we need. That's what we need from you. I wonder how much he cares about this Virginia Tech team winning basketball games, because his goal is to be a lottery pick and go to the NBA. You don't see as much. I don't see as much care as guys who grew up in the rivalry, who grew up with college basketball. He's got a lot of Kyron Drones face going on late in basketball games.
Dude,
but
Ben Hammond is laying out on the floor. He's diving for every loose ball. He's
tramping.
He's blocking shots. I mean, that's the stuff that yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't seem like there is as much passion, which reasonably, he came from Greece. He didn't care about Virginia Tech before he got here. Maybe Ben Hammond growing up in the state of Virginia, maybe that's where he wanted to be. And so it means something to him to be on the big screen doing it on his court, his team. I mean, heck, it's been his team. The UVA game, it was certainly his team. So it just means more.
All right, any I mean that's basketball. SMU, it's gonna be a tone setter type game for the rest of the year. Well, I guess I do have a point I want to make here.
Like a win would be pivotal.
It would
pivotal in this. And
you can explain away the Wake loss.
Yes.
As, I mean, just the biggest letdown spot ever. So, like, of course, you come out looking ugly in that game. You just went 3 overtimes with UVA 3 or 4 days earlier.
But you can get that Wake win back when they come back to Blacksburg.
Absolutely.
So that's there.
And then the Stanford game is like, okay, some late game stuff. Some Toby's coming back. Like,
committed.
What'd you say?
Reynolds just committed.
Nice.
There we go. That's why we're live.
Yeah. So that I've had something ready to go here. Yep. From Pete Thamel, former Penn State tight end Luke Reynolds has committed to Virginia Tech, number 2 tight end in the portal rankings, top uncommitted tight end, former top 100 recruit who has 35 catches, 368 yards over 2 years. It's from Pete Thamel. We got him. This is the first time we've had 2 high school 5-star recruits on the same Virginia Tech team since, I believe, 2015, with Kendall Fuller and Tim Settle. So it's been 10 years since we've had 2 high school 5-stars by any service on the Virginia Tech at the same time. That's pretty impressive there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shift from the norm. We don't get guys like this.
No, we don't get guys like this for 10 plus years. So Yeah, it feels really good to have a coach that knows how to wrangle them in, especially because Javion Hilson wasn't like Luke Reynolds. I can understand somebody might say, well, he was at Penn State. Javion Hilson had no connection at all, and you grabbed him. So people can stop saying that. I've heard some of the Penn State fans, man, you're just getting them because they played for him. He's not going to do it again. So I think the Javion Hilson commit was the one that made them shut up. But Luke Reynolds is awesome. That is such a phenomenal get. And you mentioned already the tight end room. And now you're adding that to the tight end room, and hopefully we get the Benji's coming back announcement, which I'd heard some things about Indiana maybe looking at Benji. So hopefully that's a positive for us, is that we can keep him in. We want to keep him here, and then bring in Luke Reynolds. That would be such a good compliment to the tight end room.
Yep, he was a 247 5-star, number 29 in the country, number 1 tight end. He was class of 24, I think. I'm checking on that.
5 total commits, 4 from Penn State.
Former 5-star, choose the Hokies. Yes, class of 2024. So that again, there's our number 1 Raider player from the class of 2024. If he would have committed to us, well, I was saying 23 months ago. We're talking about the first 5-star commit to Virginia Tech in a very long time. Elevating the talent. It's just it's there. It's impressive. And now the next one so this is one that has been rumored. He went in with the do not contact tag. His head coach and his position coach come to Virginia Tech. Just everything is pointing to Virginia Tech. The next one whose head coach and position coach came to Virginia Tech is Grunkmeyer. Grunk-O-Meyer. I'm not saying that. I'm saying Grunkmeyer. I'm not throwing an extra syllable in there. He's the next one that everybody has said is coming to Virginia Tech, that hopefully we're getting his announcement here shortly. I don't know. Well, we got Reynolds right now, so you would think that Grunkmeyer's coming soon.
Well, from what I understand, from anything I'd heard, is just that Grunkmeyer was waiting on us to make our full decision on the quarterback room, and that he wanted to know for sure he was going to be the starter. He didn't want some Bo Prabula or something to come out of nowhere and commit to us, and then him be like, "Whoa, I thought I was the guy." So maybe that's what he was waiting on. And now that he's seen a Bryce Baker commit and him specifically say, "I'm ready to develop," that sounds like Bryce Baker knows he's not going to be the starter. Who could possibly be the guy? I think maybe that was the whole holdout, because from everything I've heard, all the people that have talked about it and all the crystal balls and all that have stayed on him. So usually they take those off if they get less confident. So, yeah, I still feel really good about getting him as well.
I also wonder how much of it is Franklin saying, I want to give you two as much money as possible, but let's let this class kind of go out to see before we sign a contract on how much NIL money you're getting. Let's see where we can spend it elsewhere, and then y'all will get as much as I can give you, which will be at least this much, but if I can give you more, I will. I think I saw a rumor that maybe that's the case, that they were just trying to have the class kind of settle down before they go too far in signing those guys, and then trying to get them as much money as possible. Derek Sarton 9428 asks, "Are we getting the Grunk or not?" We sure think so. We sure hope so. Everything is still pointing that way. I don't see why we don't. Honestly, I'll be surprised if it doesn't get announced this evening. But who knows? I don't.
Well, I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up, is with a 5-star commit.
Yeah,
that's right. Anybody? The next thing on our list was women's basketball. We're at an hour and 20 minutes. I'm plenty happy with that. Does anybody want to give any women's basketball thoughts? I'm not ashamed to admit I've not been as locked into women's basketball this year as I have been in prior years.
I can't say I've been either.
Women's hoops did pretty good today. Won by 22 over Boston College. It was kind of one of those wins where it's not against a good team. Boston College, somewhere in the 200s on net rankings. They're 4-15. Haven't won a single ACC game this season, but nonetheless, women's hoops is also at 500 in the ACC right now. They're sitting 13-5. They look to be about the same level of team this year as they were last year, which is, right around that NCAA tournament bubble. Whether they'll be on the right end or the wrong end of that, we'll find that out in a couple months here. Like
I wanted to quickly ask you. You said you knew a little bit about that.
And like with
I'll wait and see. If he
their,
there he is. You got it, Cole.
oh, you're good. Well, I was just gonna say there's like the men's Stanford game was their Miami game that they played.
Yeah.
They were up 20, I want to say, in the first half, and then Miami slowly crept back and just took over late into the fourth and the second half, and then ended up winning by 8 in overtime. So that's gonna be a game they look back and like, if we would have won that, maybe that's what got us into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to quickly. You go ahead.
That definitely, I think, it'll be a lot like the Wake game, I think, in some ways, and in some ways not, because I think Tech was an evidently better team than Miami for the majority of that game. But then once you get into overtime, I'm like, I don't think that Tech's going to win in overtime. It's just if they can close them out if they can close games out before they get into overtime, that leads me to believe a little bit more in this team's ability to make the tournament. If I had to peg it, I would honestly put it at around 50-50 right now for if I think this team makes the women's basketball NCAA tournament. And you got to claim a lot of these games coming up there are 50-50. I think that the ACC for 2026 women's basketball is a lot like it is with 2025 men's, where the team disparity kind of seems to be a little bit more pronounced, and there's not as many top teams in like near the top of women's college basketball that are hailing from the ACC. I think it's a lot more top heavy. It's led by Louisville, which I think is a cut above everybody else right now at the minute. I think Duke is faltering a little bit more than they haven't in previous years. I think Tech, if you want to say, okay, what's the cut line for them to make the tournament? I think you want to be around the top 7 of the ACC.
I wanted to say, just to make a quick point on that, just watching them play this year, of course, I just graduated, so I was on campus a lot, so I was able to attend a lot of the women's games before I graduated. But they just seem like there's more depth, at least on this team this year. It seems like guard depth is clearly a lot higher than it was last year. I mean, when we would get past our 6th or 7th player off the bench last year, there was some concerns when those players ended up on the court, and maybe that's why they transferred out of the program, because they just weren't going to develop it, unfortunately, at Virginia Tech. But it just seems like, at least so far this year, there's a lot more depth. But I still have the same concerns about our big rotation. I know we have good young freshmen that can develop, it seems, anyways. But like when Freelon goes down in today's game, that concerns you that she is the center and has to be the center on the court majority of the time. And I think that was almost the same issue last year, is when Mishaw was not on the court, we did not have a center on the court that could go out and rebound and just clean up stuff, play good defense in the paint. So maybe just you could add on to that too, but I see the same issues there, unfortunately, with the front court. Now, I'm hoping that those younger 2 freshmen can develop, and I'm hoping they will stay in the program because they both look like they have a lot of potential, but I don't know if they're key contributors yet.
Right. I've been pleasantly surprised by Nia Trent's contributions. It's something that kind of jumps off. It jumps beyond the stats to you of like, okay, something like an outlet pass, like a pass to an assist kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's something that sort of stands out to me, to where it's okay, maybe on a rebound she doesn't grab it, but she creates space for somebody else to grab it. Something like that jumps out to you without it jumping out in the stats. Like on the stats, it's not much.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of her contributions, I would say, like, watching her operate in place of Freelon, she's not Kyla Freelon.
Yeah.
But she's developed a lot quicker than I thought that she would. And it's been a pleasant surprise this season.
Yeah, and she actually has a lot of size inside as well, which Freelon, for how good she is as a center, is only 6'1", right? So that's not a big center. And you remember we had some larger individuals, like a Clara Strack, of course, when she was at Virginia Tech, that's like 6'4". 6'5", and I just have those concerns when we face a team that has a lot of size. That just concerns me a little bit because Freelon seems like the only one that developed and has played a lot of college basketball. Of course, she has. She's towards the end of her college career, but yeah, that was the only concerns I had just watching them play. I still think that they have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. I think you're 100% right. They're the same exact border. You need to win those games like the Miami one where you have the huge lead. You can't drop those. But they have been pleasantly surprising when it comes to the depth. I've really liked to see that they have more depth this year, which means at least through recruiting and the transfer portal, they've been able to add, and hopefully future you can keep doing that. And I think the money injected into our athletic department as a whole is only going to help that program hopefully in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's little women's basketball. We did basketball. We went over transfer portal, and looks like it's looks like it's a few folks hopping in now. Luke Reynolds is a Hokie. We're very excited about it. It's one that we all expected. We're glad for it. Like I said earlier, it's the first time since 2015 that Virginia Tech has had 2 high school 5-stars on the same team, since Tim Settle and Kendall Fuller were on the team at the same time for that 1 year, I believe, 2015. So yeah, super excited about it. Big news. James Franklin is upping the talent on this team in a huge way. Earlier in the podcast, if y'all missed it, we're as of right now, even with adding a Reynolds and hopefully a Grunk, I think we all kind of agreed we're not really expecting 2026 to be like a playoff type year, a 10-win type of year. Schedule has a lot to do with that, but it looks like James Franklin is building for the future. There's a lot of guys with 3 and 4 years of eligibility left. It looks like the early returns on this portal are not that he's going to just be here 1 year and bounce. He looks like he is building for long term, for a run in 27 or 28. So that's where we are with Luke Reynolds. He is a Hokie, and we are very excited about it. That is reported by Pete Thamel. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Let's get a big win at SMU this week.
Absolutely. I will add, they just played without Boopy Miller against Duke. If Boopy Miller's not on the court, not that I want him to not be on the court, but if you could get a quad 1 victory against a team without their best player, that's a good opportunity to maybe grab one because Boopy is averaging over 20 points per game.
Yeah, huge when he gets SMU and tone setter. Do we actually suck? Do we actually lose to Stanford, or have we been playing to the level of our competition here recently? Can we come out and play like we did against UVA, play good defense and whatnot? We'll see. Tune in Wednesday night. We may try to live stream during that game. So check in for that. We'll see if all of our schedules can work out. Who knows? But yeah, that's mostly Hokies on SI Virginia Tech podcast. We're glad to come to y'all. We think this went well. First live we've done in a very long time. And yeah, look out for the next one. We'll see. Hopefully we'll get something recorded next week. See y'all later. All right, we're off. I got to end stream. There we go.